Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Najib and this opportunity allow me to present my final assignment for research statistic in ELT. I will present two research cases. First is experimental research case and the second is a correlational research case. And according to the instruction to focus on the case, the context, the hypothesis, and the steps used to solve the problem. The first is experimental case. The first case is an experimental research titled The Effect of Using English Song Album as Learning Media on Students' Vocabulary Mastery. The research was conducted on SMPN workable. In this context, many students experience difficulty remembering new English vocabulary. The learning process mainly relied on textbooks and teacher explanations, which made students less engaged. And to address this problem, English songs albums were used as learning media because songs provide repeated exposure to vocabulary in meaningful and enjoyable contexts. So, in this experimental research, the students divided into two independent groups: an experimental group that using English songs album and a control group taught using a traditional method. Now we move to the hypothesis. The hypotheses in this experimental case are as follows. The null hypothesis or states that there is no significant difference in vocabulary mastery when students start using English song albums and those start using the traditional method. The alternative hypothesis states that there is a significant difference between two groups. The significance level used in the study is 0.05. Now we move to the steps to solve the problem. To solve the research problem, several steps were taken. First, the vocabulary test scores were collected from both the experimental and control groups. Second, since the study involved two independent groups with small sample size, non-parametric tests was chosen. The statistical test used was the Mann-Whitney U-test. The data were analyzed using SPSS, and the p-value was compared with the significance level of 0.05. This is the step conducted using SPSS. Show the I'll show you the first is on this first screenshot is input the variable in variable view. This this is the basic steps, and then I input the data according to the column, score and group. The code 1 is for experimental class and the code 2 is for the control group, experimental group and control group. And then next is to click analyze and then choose legacy dialogs, then move to two independent samples. Then we move the variable student score to the test variable list, and move the variable group to the grouping variable on below. Then on define groups type 1 and group 1 and type 2 in group 2. And don't forget to checklist the man with Najib and then click to analyze. And then the result showed a p-value of 0.001, which is smaller than 0.05. This means the result is statistically significant and the null hypothesis was rejected. Next, we move to the correlational case. The second case is correlational research entitled "The Correlation Between Students' Frequency of Listening to English Song Album and Their Vocabulary Achievement." In this context, listening to English song is a common activity among students. However, it is still unclear whether students who listen to English songs more frequently is actually achieve better vocabulary scores or not. Therefore, this research aims to examine the relationship between them, the listening frequency and the vocabulary achievement. The hypotheses in this correlational case are the null hypothesis states that there is no significant correlation between students' frequency of listening to English song album and their vocabulary achievement. The alternative hypothesis states that there is a significant correlation between the two variables. The significance level used is 0.05. Now how to steps to solve the problem. To solve the problem, data collected from two variables. The first variable was listening frequency, measured using an ordinal scale. The second variable was vocabulary achievement, measured using the scores on an interval scale. Because the data involve one ordinal variable and one interval variable, the Spearman correlation test was used. The data were analyzed using SPSS, focusing on the correlation coefficient and the p-value. The steps of conducting the SPSS is still the same. We input the variable in variable view and make the column like here on the first picture and input the data on the data view. Next is to click the analyze and select correlate, then bivariate. After that, we move the frequency and vocabulary achievement to the right box. Then select Spearman. That's we get the outcome or result. Now the result showed a p-value of 0.006 and correlation coefficient of 0.675, indicating a strong positive correlation, and therefore the null hypothesis was rejected. Okay, that's all for my final test presentation. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.